Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you are here, that you clicked on today's video. I hope that you are cozy comfy. I am wearing a very cozy comfy sweatshirt that my husband picked up for me last night at Costco. He went to pick up some groceries and he came back. He was like, this looks like you, and I love it, and it has pockets and it's just so cozy. I have a cup of coffee. This is definitely much needed today. I'm pretty tired. I thought about filming this video and maybe taking a nap. My daughter's taking her nap, so if I have all the time in the world, I would take a nap today. We'll see how it goes, but I'm drinking coffee from this beautiful mug that my sister made me for Christmas. I love it. In my last video, I did mention how she makes pottery and makes things, and I just love everything that she makes. So I'm drinking coffee from there. I'm going to put it down here beside me on the floor. I'm sitting on the floor, and fingers crossed I don't spill it. In my last video, I had mentioned how I spilled my coffee while I was doing yoga. Not very good, so hopefully I don't spill this one. But today is a different video than what I normally film, and I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to be sharing all the books that I want to read this year. So all the books I want to read in 2025. Don't worry, I'm still going to be doing crochet videos. I'm still going to be doing market videos and market prepping and everything that I'm crocheting and knitting and everything like that. That is not going to change, but I thought going into the new year I would sprinkle in some book videos or book chats or whatever, and I hope that that sounds interesting to you. Someone had commented on one of my past videos saying like, why don't you combine the two, because I love reading. Reading is my #1 hobby actually, and then crocheting. Reading has been part of my life ever since I learned how to read. I've never stopped reading and never not read. It's just something that I just love, and it's just kind of who I am. I just have always read. So I thought it would be fun to share books and things that I want to read or that I have read, and just sprinkle it into my crochet, knitting, crafty videos. So going forward into the new year, I want to make videos that bring me joy, obviously videos that you are interested in watching, but I have lots of interest. I'm a mom, I'm a stay-at-home mom. We just recently moved to Florida, so we're just doing a lot of fun exploring and adventuring, and yeah, so I'm still, crocheting and doing all the things, so that part isn't going to change going into this new year, but I might just kind of change up my videos a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and chat about all the books I want to read in 2025. I actually don't know how many books are on this list. I have not counted them up, but I went through first and got all the physical ones that I would really like to have read this year, and then I have my new Kindle that my husband got me for Christmas. This is primarily what I read on, and then my reading journal. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. I don't know how many books are on this list. I think I already said that. I don't remember. But in my reading journal, there is a books to read section. So anytime I want to read a book, I just write it down. I'm not going to go over all of these because some of these are like take it or leave it. If someone's mentioning it, I think, oh, that sounds interesting, I'll write it down, but it might not be my top on the list of books to read, if that makes sense. What I'm going to share today are the books that I really want to read this year. So I'm going to start with all of my physical books that I have, and then we'll go with the books that I don't own or that I'll probably get from the library or whatever. I mostly do library books. I do Libby, or I do physical library books. I don't really buy a whole ton of books. Books are expensive, so I utilize my library. I always have my whole life. The library is amazing, and I stand by that. And my daughter and I go to the library all the time. That's her favorite place to go. She has her own library card. So, and this new library that because we just moved here to a whole new state, so the library system here, you can check out over 100 books per card. I don't know what she said, but it was over 100, and I was like, that's a lot of books. So anyways, let's talk about all the books I want to read this year. So in no particular order, the first book is Six of Crows. So a little bit of a backstory with this one. I read the Shadow and Bone series. Wasn't a huge fan. I liked her writing, I just didn't love the story. I actually had a booktube channel before I started this channel. I had a booktube channel several years ago where I would talk about books, and I actually kept up with it up until my daughter was born. I wasn't very consistent, but I was making videos here and there. And at the very beginning of last year, I wrote 24 books I want to read in 2024, and this was on it. And I did not read it. My brother-in-law read it, and I think because he heard me talk about it, I could be wrong, or his sister or somebody, but he read it and he wasn't the biggest fan, so it kind of like turned me off from wanting to read it because he said it wasn't that great. So that made me hesitant to read it, but I still want to. I want to have read it and see if it's any better. Like I always hear good things about it. I really respect my brother-in-law's reading taste. So when he said he wasn't a fan, it definitely made me feel like, oh, maybe I won't like it. But this is definitely on the list. I want to get it read this year. So the next book I want to read is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is a fantasy romance with dragons, and that's all that I know. I do believe there is some spice in here. I'm not a fan of spice, but we'll kind of, tiptoe around it, see what I think about it. It does look very, very thick and big, but the font is really big. The writing is very simple, so it's not going to take long to get through. I've only heard great things about this. The second book is coming out at some point this year, so I do want to get this read, and I'm curious about it. Then the next one is actually the series of books, and it's Belladonna. I have the whole series, but I didn't take all of them off of my shelf. I've actually read this one, but I want to reread it and then read the next two, which is Wisteria, or Foxglove, and then Wisteria. I really enjoyed this one. I read it at some point last year, but I do want to read it again before I go into the next one. This is a YA gothic fantasy, I guess you could say. Our main girl, Signa, she can't really die, and there is a kind of interesting relationship with death in this, and I really enjoy this one. There's some romance in there, there's a mystery, so definitely very much enjoyed it, and I want to read the next two. So that's definitely a priority read for this year. The next one I want to read is The Last Mrs. Parrish. This is by Liv Constantine. I don't know anything about this. All I've heard is that Frida McFadden copied this book. I haven't read any Frida McFadden books. I'm not really interested in reading her books, but I've heard it copied this one. I could be wrong. If you've heard that, let me know. But this is a Reese book club pick, and for the most part, I really like all of her book club picks. This has been on my bookshelf for a while, so I definitely want to get this read. I love thrillers, and so I'm really interested in this one, so I want to read that one. Then the next one, again, is a whole other series. I'm not counting each book in the series, but I'm just counting the series as a whole, and that is the Aragon series. So this series I grew up with. I love these books with everything in me. They're so good. This is like when I hear books about dragons, like this is what I think about. This whole series is just so good. This author came out with a new book in this series, and I haven't read it. And it came out, I want to say, the beginning of last year, or at some point last year. It's called Murtagh, and I feel like before I read that one, because it picks up, that the newest book picks up right when Inheritance ends, and I feel like I should reread the entire series before I read this new one, just to kind of like refresh, because it's been a while. Like I said, this book has been out almost 20 years, I think. I want to say it's 2006. I could be wrong. 2002 is when it was copyrighted. So yeah, literally I grew up with this series, loved them. My brother and sisters love them. They're elite. They're so good. So I want to reread them and then read the newest one as well, which I do own. I own the whole series now. So I definitely want to get that read this year as well. Then another one is the Red Rising series. I just recently picked this one up. This has been on my list for a long time. This has been out for a while. There's like 2 series, I think, in this. There's like the original trilogy, and then he came out with like 3 other ones recently or something like that. Again, I could be wrong, but this is more of a sci-fi, and I really want to read it. I've only heard amazing things about this, and I really want to read that whole series. So that's definitely on my list to read this year. Another one is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I actually read about this much, so about halfway, years ago. I don't know why I stopped reading it, but I definitely want to get this read. I know I'm going to love it. I know that I am. I just need to read it. So I'm gonna just have to start this over because I don't remember anything. So this is on my list this year to get read. And then this one, I saw it on my shelf. I had thrifted this a while ago, but it's The Lake House by Kate Morton, and I've only read one other book by her, and I remember enjoying it. I read it years ago, but I remember enjoying it, and so when I saw this one, I thought this could be interesting. It is I don't know if it's a thriller or a mystery, but we're following this girl whose like 1-year-old brother goes missing, and then 70 years later a investigator or somebody comes along and is trying to solve the mystery. So it sounds very interesting. I want to read it. So that's on my list to read this year as well. Then another series, I have a lot of series I want to get read this year. It's the Anne of Green Gables series. I grew up reading these books. These books are my heart. I love them. For my birthday this past year, my sister actually sent me the whole collection of them because I don't own them. I have the first and the last one just from like my childhood books. Somehow the whole series got split up between all of us siblings. I'm not really sure what happened, but I just have been really wanting to reread these. I haven't read them since I've been married and become a mom, and I think with that perspective it's going to wreck me in all the best ways. And so this whole series is just incredible. Again, I grew up reading these, grew up on the movies. It's just part of me, but I want to read these again. I just love this whole series so much. Time for a drink of coffee before it gets too cold. So those are all the books on my physical shelf that I want to read this year. Now what I'm going to do is go through my reading journal of all the books that I have written down. I lied. I do have one more physical book. Crown of Midnight. This was on my nightstand. That's why I missed it. So I want to read the entire Throne of Glass series. I'm on Crown of Midnight, so I have a ways to go, but I want to get this series read this year. There are a lot of series on this list for this year, but I can do it. So another one, don't laugh at this one. You can laugh if you want. I want to read the Fourth Wing series. So the summer of 2023, I read Fourth Wing. I gave it 1 star. I thought it was the worst book I've ever read. I thought it was just awful. And so the third one is coming out this month, and I thought, you know what? I kind of want to give it another shot. So I actually picked out Fourth Wing again on my Kindle, and I started it yesterday. So I want to read Fourth Wing, the second one, which is Iron Flame, and the third one, which is coming out this month, which is Onyx Storm. So I want to read that series kind of like now. That's like the one that I'm working on now. So I want to have those read this year. That one is a fantasy romance about dragons. I know it just went crazy and everyone was like, whoa, romance fantasy about dragons. And that's when I was like, have you not read Aragon? But I really want to read this series and see if, you know, the second time around it's better. I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I'm currently reading right now. Okay, now onto the list. So I really want to read some Kristen Hanna books. I want to read The Nightingale, which I actually do own. I do own that one. And then I want to read The Women. My sister owns The Women, so I'll probably borrow that from her. But I want to read those. So that is on the list as well. I want to read another fantasy romance. There's a lot of really popular books that I'm like, I think I want to read these. The Spark of the Everflame series. There's 3 out. The 4th one I think is coming out or something like that. It's a fantasy romance. That's all that I know, but I know that people have really enjoyed them. And so, you know, if I get to it this year, great. If not, that's okay too. Then the second Heartless Hunter book is coming out soon. It's called Rebel Witch. I loved that one actually. I thought it was really good. It's kind of a Scarlet Pimpernel retelling. It's about a socialite girl who is secretly a witch and she's being hunted by a witch hunter. Witches cannot survive. They are not allowed to live here. All the things. So she's pretending to be this silly socialite when deep down she's like saving witches. So, and she's also a witch. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. Very kind of tropey, you could say. A lot of like typical trope in a fantasy romance, but I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The second one's coming out and I definitely want to get that read. Another series that I want to give a shot is the ACOTAR series. So I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book. I read it like 3 times. I cannot get past it, and I feel like before I even can continue into the series, I have to read it again so I just kind of can remember it, because that's how much it just goes right over because it's just so silly. So I know this is a very beloved series and I really want to give it a shot. So I want to kind of read those this year and just kind of formulate my own opinion after the entire series has been read. The first one I think is not very good, but I'm hoping the other ones get better. I am loving the Throne of Glass series. It's the same author, Sarah J. Maas. I'm loving that series, but for some reason the ACOTAR series, I'm like, I don't know what I think about it. So I do need to reread the first one again and then continue with the series. So hopefully it gets better, but the first one is not very good, but I do want to read them. Another one I really want to read this year is The Sword of Kaigan. I don't know the author, but I'm gonna hopefully have all pictures of these books that I don't own up here on the screen somewhere. I don't know much about this one. It is a fantasy and it's about a mother and a son, and it sounded good. That's all that I know, but I know that it's a beloved book and I really want to read it. Another one I really want to read is Outlander. It's been on the back of my mind for years to pick this up. I actually started the show, but I couldn't quite get into the show, but I'm wondering if the book is any better. So I want to pick that up and see what I think about it. I feel like it's one of those books that is always at the thrift store, so maybe I'll try to go see if I can find it somewhere, or I know the library always has it too. So at some point this year I'd like to read it. Okay, we're almost done with books that I really want to read this year. So Riley Sager always comes out with a new book in June, so I'm excited for his new one. It looks really good, and all I know is it involves a train somehow. So I don't know if it's going to be like Murder on the Orient Express or something like that, but I'm excited for it. The third Emily Wilde book is coming out in February. I love this series. It's like a cozy fantasy. She's a scholar who in the first book is on a mission to create an encyclopedia of all the different types of fairies. She gets thrown into a whole new world with people and her rival turned lover, and it's such a cute series. I love it. So the third one is coming out. I'm really excited for it. Okay, and then What the River Knows and Where the Library Hides. So I read What the River Knows when it very first came out. Loved it. It's such a good book. I feel like more people need to read it. And then recently Where the Library Hides came out, and I still have yet to read that one, but I want to reread What the River Knows before I read the second one. My sister reread What the River Knows and then Where the Library Hides, and said the second one was very good as well. It's a duology, so there are only 2 books in the series, but I really want to read those pretty soon here. So maybe in the next month or 2 I will get those read. So I'm excited for those. And then the very last book that I want to read this year is Caraval. This is by Stephanie Garber. I don't know a whole lot about it. It is, I think, more kind of circusy and more fairy tale type of feel, and I really want to read that. That sounds very good to me. So there's a whole series of the Caraval series, and then there's a second series that revolves around some characters from the first one. And so I want to read both of the series, but you have to read Caraval first, I'm pretty sure. So I want to get that series read and then read the second series or whatever it is. So those are all the books that I want to read this year in 2025. So many books, so little time. I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of these this year. Last year I only read a total of 30 books. This year I put it at 70. I don't know why, because nothing is going to really change this year. I'm going to keep doing markets and crocheting and being a mom, and I'm sure going to be even busier as my daughter is getting bigger. So I don't know if I can get to 70 books this year, but I'm going to try. And yeah, I'm really excited about all these books, and there's going to be so many new ones. I know that Taylor Jenkins Reid has a new one coming out. I love her books. I feel like there's several others coming out this year that sound very good. So yeah, definitely going to be busy reading all these books, and I'm really excited. I would love to know what books you want to read in the year of 2025. If you want to leave a whole list, I would love to see it. If you want to leave just 1 or 2 books, I would love to read those and see what books you are wanting to read this year. Maybe add them to my list. And if you've read any of these books I've mentioned, or if any of them sound fun that you want to add to your list, please let me know. Let's continue this conversation down in the comments below. But other than that, my friends, I'm going to leave you here. I am motivated now to read. I just put this chair, this was in the hall actually, but I just put it in our room. I'm gonna get cozy comfy here, finish up my coffee, and do some reading. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different than the other videos that I make, but yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. Bye.